Let me see here. All right. Hey, Boyan. How you doing? All right. Let me just make sure we're live over on LinkedIn because that's the important one. Little delays. All right. Perfect. Let me just do one more thing because I've got a Discord community that I like to invite into this. Get some more people
Okay.
hanging out.
What do you have, different dashboards for LinkedIn and for this one and for that one?
Just 500 different windows open. Nothing fancy. I don't have fancy stuff yet. One day. All right, cool. All right,
Okay.
people hanging out. Whoops. Mute that. All right, cool. All right. Welcome, everyone. If you're just tuning in, I'll repeat this multiple times, but if you're watching on any of the streaming services, use the text chat to ask questions or share what you have going on, and I'll relay that to Marc so you can get answers, feedback, advice, insight, guidance, whatever it is. Don't be shy. With that said, now that we're live, Marc, how about you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Marc Honorof. I've been an entrepreneur for about the last 40 years. Started my first company in 1991. That was a software publishing company. Ran that for about 9 years. We launched 150 or so titles in that period of time. We were the 10th largest reference publisher back in the CD-ROM days. From there, I went on and became part of a small public company as uh, executive director of operations for a company that had the first streaming technology uh, for dial-up modems for audio and video back in the day. When we met these guys, they're a small Israeli company. They had raised $16 million on a small cap London exchange based on a white paper. So we had to take that white paper and break it into products. So we created 5 different products out of their technology, launched North American headquarters, hired 45 or so people from receptionist to CFO. Um, Productized the technology, created manufacturing, set up distribution, and our coming out party to announce we existed is with Earthlink as our partner. We did the first ever live streamed Easter egg roll with Bill Clinton from the White House lawn. That was a lot of fun to do. And then I'm pretty much a content guy. I've produced, set up distribution, and monetized content from print to audio to video, a little bit in the gaming space. I'm an early stage guy. I like to do stuff that hasn't been done before. I mentor early stage companies, play devil's advocate, make a pretty good sounding board. So yeah, I mean, early stage and startup is my space. Uh, Been in it forever and don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
I love it. We had your buddy Jay Samit on a couple weeks ago, and
I
that was
love Jay.
yeah, it was fun. We heard some interesting stories about you two getting started back in the day. Um,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, one of my like the favorite thing I think about you, especially when it's early stage, it's your capability to work within the resources you have to open up new doors, right? And that's where strategic partnerships really play a role in accelerating a company's growth or finding a way to just get into the market and started. Um, while we're waiting for people to post some questions, or Marc Boyne, since you two are over here on Start Mata, if you want to raise your hand, jump on stage and use your microphone, camera optional, to ask questions, feel free to let me know. Raise your hand or post in chat. But yeah, other people that are watching, again, that just tuned in, use the text chat and I'll relay to Marc so you can get some answers or insights, feedback. But yeah,
Yeah.
Marc,
Well, let me give you a little factoid that I learned yesterday. Um, So one of the projects I'm involved in now is launching an educational division for Tokyo Pop, which is a manga publishing company, global publishing company. So we've been working on localizing some very, very good manga-based educational products for middle school with a company called Gakken. Gakken is the largest educational publisher in Japan. So I've got a team of editors and translators and designers and blah, blah, blah. So we got our print ready files. We're launching, our on sale date is March 17th through Penguin Random House. So last Friday, yeah, well, a week ago, yeah, about a week ago, maybe a little bit less, we sent print ready files to our printer in China. Luckily, there's no tariffs on books and educational material. But I found out one of the books that we're having printed is a history book called The Cold War and Beyond. In that book are a couple of maps. Well, I didn't know that the Chinese government, if you have maps in a book and you want to print, the Chinese government has to approve those maps. So I just got thrown a monkey wrench because I've got deadlines to get product delivered because they're coming by boat from China, so it's 3 months right there. So anybody who ever wants to print anything in China, if it's got maps, build in a little extra time because the Chinese government needs to approve your maps.
Yeah, I mean, this is too like one of these things that it's very hard to kind of be aware of and plan, especially when you're working in different territories and governments and everything. But the moral of the story is always build in a lot of buffer time, whatever amount of,
Absolutely.
yeah, whatever timeline you think it'll take, like add an extra third at least, so you have an opportunity to work through these different hurdles and challenges that are, like unexpected. And that's the journey of a founder in most cases, is being confronted with a lot of unexpected challenges and adversity. And this too is like where, and we'll go off on a little tangent here, but for founders that are trying to fundraise, a lot of founders are afraid of failure, and they don't understand that founders who have failed before end up being seen as a better bet for whatever new venture they have, new deal they're being presented to investors. If they have a history of starting 5 other startups, even if they failed, they're still gonna be a better candidate in a lot of cases than the first time founder who's trying to raise money, because they have gone through these experiences before. They have a ability to speak to the lessons they learned through those failures and mistakes, and how they're going to apply that to this next venture to avoid that or be more prepared to overcome it. And so, yeah, it's just a random little tangent, but yeah, again, for those that are hanging out, Mark over here, Mark Holmes says, I'm currently sitting at a table at Stonehouse in Westlake Village with two friends who are big manga
Nice.
fans. Awesome. Good. Remember, the One Piece is real, Mark. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. So, Boyne is a small business owner. Mark is also a new startup founder. Different stages. Boyne's a little bit more established with his company. Mark's newer and has, I think they've landed their second client now. And I'm curious, in terms of strategic partnerships and figuring out what you have to leverage to build those relationships and establish a partnership, what sort of methodology would you recommend to begin that process? So first, like,
Sure.
yeah, identify what you have and then figure out who you can connect that to.
Sure. Well, so first of all, when I'm mentoring young startup companies, I preach strategic partnerships. Um, if you can find a compatible, non-competitive company that has your market as a core competency, you have to be able to figure out what's the win-win, right? Whether you have content that's unique that you can feed through their channel and set up a good, revenue sharing program, you know, uh, 40, 50, 60% of a lot is a much better than 100% of zero. Um, yeah, I mean, everything I've done has been by using strategic partnerships. Um, Trying to think of some great examples. Um, Nothing really comes to mind. But like I said, if you can find a company where you have an asset that they don't, but it's sort of like the remora and the shark. If you guys can approach the market together, you increase their offering, and you get to tag along on their marketing prowess. It's a win-win. So don't be too concerned about giving up some revenue, because in the startup world, you want to get as big as you can, as fast as you can, because somebody's nipping at your heels, whether you know it or not. There are probably a dozen other companies doing what you're trying to do. So get as big as you can, as fast as you can. The best way to do it is to hook up with a company that has the same addressable market as you.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like how much power that can provide you. Not only again, like what you're saying, to like enter the market and start growing faster, but at the early stage too, you can start to leverage that to get better feedback with the potential customers you have and start to validate, if this is even something that makes sense because you're talking to people or other people who are very much living and breathing in that industry too, or that market, whatever it is, and building those relationships are super important. um, I'm checking different text chats and stuff. We got some new people joining us over on LinkedIn. Welcome.
Okay, good.
Please do post, like, what you're working on in chat or any questions you have for Mark, and I'll relay them. That's why Mark's here, not to talk to me, to talk to you. So yeah, don't be
Yeah.
shy.
Just a comment for the manga fans sitting at Stonehouse. Um, the reason that we're creating this entire new educational division is Gakken in Japan. They teach middle school products. We've licensed history, science, and math, but they teach them in a manga format. So the format of these products, of these print books, is storytelling. So we take the kids through an adventure, whether it be dinosaurs, for example. We take them through a dinosaur adventure, and built in within these books, maybe 10% of the books are actual textbook type pages that look like real hard learning. But the real learning is through reading these stories. And as we all know, the only thing that kids are reading right now are two things: they're reading manga and they're reading graphic novels. So my goal is to try to increase STEM learning through the use of manga, so kids get engaged again and actually learn something. So there, I'm done preaching.
No, it's good. It's good to preach about that for sure. Um, so, oh, good. Mark, you're talking. Ask some questions, bud. Hey, and we got some people also chiming in over on LinkedIn. Okay, just, yeah, saying hi. Awesome. So yeah, well, Mark's like, yeah, typing. I'm so Jace shared like a really interesting story about grabbing a coach, really experienced, well-known football coach, and roped him in to essentially pitch for him to a potential strategic partner. When it comes to those types of, like, strategies of seeing who that you can lean on to rope into like those types of like support, or like, I don't know how to put it, but to get someone to help you out, to open a door for you and speak as your spokesperson. Like, how how like, I'm trying to figure out like the best way to, like, also explain this is just like, there's a lot of people who are hesitant to ask for help, and they feel like they're not ready enough to reach out to someone like that because they haven't done enough or they haven't proven enough. What kind of like advice do you have in regards to reaching out to someone who might be a bigger name, or
Mhm.
someone that you feel like, is in a different tier than you, and resonate with them and not feel afraid to put yourself out there and be vulnerable?
Sure. So a couple things. So number one, if you've done your due diligence, you have a startup and you're looking to raise funds, right? Let's start there. So if you've identified your VC, or a small block of VCs, your first communication to them should be, "Hi, this is me. This is what I'm doing. All I want is your opinion. Um, I don't want money from you. Can you give me some advice? I'm very early in this process. Please help me. It's an honor for people to be asked for help. And this is what people don't understand, right? If if you're trying to get something accomplished, number one, it's because you don't know how to do it, right? Fear, if you're going to have fear, don't get into having a startup in the first place because you'll experience fear on a daily basis. So get fear out of your head. So if there's people are way more receptive than you think they're going to be. If you send a note to Mark Cuban and say, "Hey, Mark, I watched you on Shark Tank. I see you have some experience here. This is what I'm doing. If you have 10 seconds, could you give me your opinion on XYZ?" You'd be surprised that you're going to get an email back. So, yeah, take fear off the table. It doesn't exist. And if it exists, you're in the wrong business.
I think that's very well said. And yeah, the daily fear is real as an entrepreneur. So yeah, it's something to channel and push through. And if you're gonna experience it, like you're saying, experience it in a fun way, reaching out to people that you admire and you would love to, yeah, connect with. And the most important thing that you shared, other than being okay with the fear aspect, is coming across in an authentic way and recognizing that you're able to empower someone through asking them for support. I think that's something that people forget all the time. And it's something to be not only mindful of, but frame your inquiry, your outreach in that manner where, like Irina came up earlier, Mark, when we were just in like the green room for this. And something that Irina shares all the time is she loves people reaching out to her, but she hates when they reach out without making it clear why her. And I experience this
Sure.
all the time too. I'm sure you do too. And that's the difference, right? Like we have so many people who are thinking volume, 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 and using a bunch of these tools, getting lists, and just spamming people, right? And there's no reason to feel a human connection or empowered by that type of outreach. But yeah, if you're coming about it from the way you put it, where you're like, hey, I'm struggling with this, I need help. Here's why I think you can help me and what I admire about you and what makes you someone I can trust. That is a completely different context that is very excitable for people. So I think that's really well said.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it boils down to LinkedIn too. If I just get a connection request, I won't accept it. If somebody takes the time and say, "Hey, I want to connect because XYZ," that's something I'll take seriously. And, we all have egos, right? So if somebody contacts me and says, "Hey, I know that you've done this and this. I'm doing this. Can you help me with this question?" I'm going to answer that, right? Because they've taken the time to identify me as somebody they want an opinion from. Quite, candidly, it helps my ego. And everybody has an ego.
We're all humans. This is true.
We're all human, even though some don't act like it.
That's true as well. Mark Holmes says, that's really great advice. It definitely feels like there are unwritten rules around asking for help from people who don't have time. And yeah, absolutely. And again, people have time if it's something that makes them feel good, it feeds their ego, or it makes them feel like they can be a part of something that's bigger themselves, whatever it is. Like there's always an angle there. And it's too often people think it's purely transactional. And this goes back to what you just said, Mark, too, about like those like connection requests. The ones that don't have anything attached to it, I don't accept. The ones that irritate me a little bit more than that are the ones that reach out and they're purely transactional and there's nothing else there. It's just like, boom, I
Yeah, they
want.
get blocked.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that's like a different level of spam that it provides nothing in terms again of that human connection, that relationship element
Right.
to care about. It's just like I don't need to hear another pitch. I don't need to, yeah, just like be sold something again. I'm not here for that. I'm here to build relationships and be community oriented and feel like I'm engaging with people and not another AI bot type of thing. I'm curious, like, building on this with the outreach angle, you do a lot of, wonderful community organizing in your own right, part of Provisors. You're a mentor with us. I'm curious, when other organizations are trying to reach out to you as a mentor, um, that too, what's a way for them to better present themselves to get you involved as a mentor?
Well, I like to understand the purpose, what their goals, what they're trying to achieve. I have enough to do that I don't need to go into a room and just, pontificate with people over something that's never going to happen. So I need to have a very clear, this is our purpose. This is why we believe you can add to what we're trying to accomplish. So if it's framed that way, then I can make a decision. Yeah, they understand who I am, and yes, I do believe I could help. Or this is something that doesn't really fit into my wheelhouse, and under how do you contact people? I'll respond with either yes, I'd love to do that, or no, but it's not just going to be a no. It's going to be a no coupled with, but I know three or four other people that might really help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. So, there's an old adage, you got to give to get, right? So, I'm always interested in how I can help somebody else. I rarely think about what I can get in return. So if I can help somebody accomplish something, that's enough for me. That makes me feel good, and that makes me feel, nothing wrong with a little karma out there.
I love it. I love it how it's like a recurring theme too of being vulnerable, communicating clearly, and giving people again a reason to feel empowered about the position that you're asking them to put themselves into in order to be supportive to you or others. And like you said as well, which is kind of plays into fundraising or finding like a mentor for yourself or an advisor or a co-founder, anything else, the more clear you are about what those goals are and what you're trying to get support with, the easier it is for anyone to redirect you to others that could be helpful, right? And
Yep.
that's something people forget when they're being afraid and asking people for help, advice, feedback, whatever it is that if they say no, or like, the worst case is that they say no and they hate you. Okay, well, there's nothing to worry about that if you know you did nothing wrong, you're being respectful and, you know, gracious with all that, right? But short of that, they never answer you, which isn't a bad thing. It just means they're busy. If they outright
Yeah,
say
that's
no, then it's like, okay, well, it's just not a good fit. But if they say no and here's something, that's still a win. That's still a clear win. That's getting you closer to, again, resources, opportunities, your ambitions, your goals, whatever it is. So yeah, it's really good.
well, if you don't ask the question, it's already a no.
Exactly. You have nothing to lose, and that's something people need to keep in mind, whether they're building a career or a business, whatever it is. So important to not be afraid, or if you are
Yeah,
afraid,
but
push
be
through it.
but be respectful of people's time. So be very clear why you're reaching out. Somebody just wants to reach out and say, "Hey, I'd like to connect." It's like, yeah, okay, okay, I got other people that I'm dealing with. It's like, why? What's your purpose? If you don't tell me your purpose, you're not getting an answer.
This is true. I'm curious about jumping back to fundraising aspect. I'm curious, as a founder yourself, what have you seen change in terms of the way people present and pitch and how investors have changed as well in regards to what their expectations are when they're working with a founder to try to at the earliest stage just vet the deal through the pitch deck, that outreach.
That's interesting. I haven't personally gone out to raise money for probably a decade and a half. So I don't know that I'm the best person in the world to answer that. But from what I understand, is the normal business plan, the normal pitch deck is getting kind of passe. Um, I think people having more success with like 6 slides, being very clear, problem, solution, team. I think that's the main thing investors are looking for. Is your tech solid? So you got to get over that hump. But assuming your tech's solid, who's your team? Why you doing this? Are these the right people to pull this off? Of course, market opportunity. Um, but I don't know that investment has really changed that much over the years. It's always about those things. It's always about problem, solution, team, and is this a market? So you don't need you give me a 27-page business plan, it's going in the trash.
I mean, it's
You
it's
know,
it's interesting to say that because, again, in the context of how things have changed today, where everyone's getting bombarded on every channel, whether it's DMs and LinkedIn, or email on Twitch or Twitter, excuse me, whatever social a person has, it's just constant. I'm getting constantly bombarded with texts and phone calls from spammers, which is just
sure.
obscene. So it makes sense for that early outreach for your deck to just be super to the point, concise, and clear about those those core points of what you're doing and all that. So it's easy for someone to first engage with you and just get like a trailer, right? It's like a movie trailer. See if there's any
Yeah,
interest at
for
all,
sure.
and go from there. So I think that's really interesting insight. Um,
Yeah, and I would add one thing. I would add that if you're going to reach out to a particular investor, first of all, don't shotgun, right? Do the work. Look for the people in your particular industry that you think have an affinity for what you're doing, and open up with, "This is why I'm sending this to you." Like, I know what your investment thesis is. I know that you're invested in these other companies. I think this might be a strategic fit for blah blah blah. Be use a rifle. Be very, very specific why you're reaching out to them in particular.
I think something that's really interesting that you just touched on was the strategy, right? The strategic fit. And I think that's something, again, founders overlook and they don't consider when they're looking at investors, at any, like, any type of investor, whether it's an angel, VC, something bigger, right? It's looking at the whole portfolio dynamics and identifying where you can fit strategically within that portfolio to bring value to another portfolio company, or
That's
a
right.
few, or how
Goes
those.
back to strategic partnering. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then you have the investor who is able to facilitate those relationships for you as part of their entire portfolio growing in value through those relationships. So that's really interesting. Um, like, again, like, in terms of like looking through that and identifying that, are there any like core factors that you would prioritize when you're trying to do that research and evaluation?
Well, I would probably start by identifying those investors in my particular space. That's got to be number one. Number two, I would look up who in that firm, who are the partners in that firm. I would personally look them up on LinkedIn. I would try to get a sense of what their background, their experience is. If I could find out something a little personal, that's even better. But like I said, I want to do the research specifically. I mean, I don't want to reach out to 100 people. I want to reach out to 10 or 12 people that I know I have the best success because I've done the research and they fit in my particular bucket. So if I can't get funded by those guys who I hit their thesis, we've come up sort of similarly. We look at the market the same way. If I can't get money from them, I'm going to have to go down a different road.
Wonderful insights. I hope people that are listening that are thinking about fundraising or in the process of it are taking notes, because this is going to be very helpful. Because, again,
And by
yeah,
the way, to get a warm introduction to somebody, right? See who they're connected to. See who you have in common. If you can get, if Gary can send an email to Sequoia because he knows one of the partners he played hockey with, and say, "Hey, this guy Mark's going to contact you. He's got this really cool thing that fits into your thesis. Please, pay attention or look for the email, I mean, that's a million times better than sending off a cold email.
That too, and this comes up often. It's like when you're at the earliest stages, especially, it's very important to start with who you know, your existing relationships, and then who they know. And if you're not starting there and you're just rushing to like Reddit to like start spamming communities about
Mm.
your product or your deal or whatever it is, you're doing things incredibly wrong and backwards, and you're overlooking the most valuable assets you have already, and that's your existing relationships. These people know you, they trust you, they care about you, right? And I know some entrepreneurs, they have bad experience with some people around them and their friends, their family when it comes to entrepreneurship, but I've been doing this a long time, and Mark, you've been around for a long time too, and you can speak on this a little bit. I'd appreciate that. But in my experience, the people who have the most trouble with the people around them who are not supportive of what they're trying to do, it's usually because those entrepreneurs are behaving in very toxic, obsessive ways where all they're doing is working and telling everyone about their business that that's the only thing they have in their life that's going on, and just making people sick and tired of being around them. There's no other way to engage with them in a healthy relationship because of that. And so I'm curious, when it comes to just being like a more fulfilled person who's able to draw from more areas of life, like how important is it, do you feel, for an entrepreneur or even like a career professional that's really like working hard to build a career, how important is it for them to engage in other hobbies and set like boundaries about where they allow their work to come into play with their personal relationships and all that?
Hmm. Well, that's an interesting question. Personal boundaries. So, so for me, um, I do a few things that are non-negotiable, right? I have my Sunday afternoon golf game, right? So I'm not taking meetings then. I carve out time to see my kids, right? Nothing's going to come between that. Um, as far as hobbies, I don't know. I guess there's a couple ways to look at it. One, you can do them just fulfill your life and then have fun, go play your pickleball. Or two, one of your hobbies could be mentoring young startup companies if you're looking to make investments. Pick hobbies that play into your life. Um, but going back to just maybe the question before, um, when you contact a friend, family member, contact whatever, number one, most important, don't waste somebody's time. Know what you're talking about. Know what your ask is, and as or more importantly than that, you cannot ever fall in love with your product. Once you fall in love with your product, you're dead in the water because much smarter people than you are going to come back and give you advice and say, well, what if you did this? What if you did that? And if you fall in love with your own product, number one, you're not going to get funded. And number two, the product's going to suck. So don't fall in love with your own widget.
I'm glad you brought that up. Again, it's something we experience all the time, you and I as mentors, and being a part of different communities like this. I think part of uh, another kind of detriment to falling in love with your product also makes it much harder for you to be open to that criticism and your ability to listen. And
Yep.
yeah, and I think we've talked about this before too, because we've been doing this a long time, but it's important to be open to that criticism, but don't take advice blindly, right? You want to find that
Sure.
balance where you're taking everything in and you're critically thinking about it and properly contextualizing everything, and then setting up an experiment to test and see if that advice is, has merit or not. But you don't go all in. And that's something too, if you're fundraising, you don't want to be a founder that is doing things purely reactionary, like, oh, this customer told us we got to do this, or this investor said we got to do this, or this competitor's doing that, we got to change everything we're doing and do what they're doing, right? But at the same time too, you don't want to be the founder that's No, I know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. I don't care if you've been in this industry for
Right.
20 years, and I just decided to make a product in this industry because I saw it's trending like this, and there's a lot of opportunity to make money in this, right? So you got to find that balance and be a good listener and exhibit these skills that, or these character traits that make you a founder that is trustworthy. And again, going back to those hurdles that you are going to experience every day, you're going to be capable of taking a pause and assessing things appropriately and then making the most informed decision that invites the least amount of risk to move forward and learn. So yeah, it's wonderful what you just said and brought up. Marc, I've seen you typing a little bit in here, so feel free. Again, yeah, if you want to jump on stage, bring some friends with you, which is always fun. But yeah, you can use the text chat to ask questions, share what you got going on. Some new people joined us over at LinkedIn. Welcome.
Oh, cool.
Marc's, yeah, very cool. Marc is here to answer your questions, not talk to me. I'm just filler. I'm doing my best to help you all get some insights and good advice on what's going on out there. But he's here to talk to you. So please don't be shy. Share what you have going on. Post some questions. I will relay them. We've got some time left, so do it. Do it now.
Yeah.
Something. That, yeah.
One of the things about challenges, right? If you get challenged by an investor or challenged by a client, uh, they may not challenge you just because they want to play devil's advocate. They may want to see how you respond. Are you in love with your product? Are you like so steadfast that you're not going to take criticism? You're not going to be open to possible changes, and they may just want to see if you're somebody they can work with or not. Like, is this guy malleable? Is he going to be a pain in the ass to work with if we have a suggestion? So people are smart. They may challenge you just to see how you react.
That too is very insightful and important. Um, yeah, I mean, everyone's trying to figure out what sort of influence they have, what kind of power they can have, and yeah, it's important to be aware of these different components. But at the same time, they could just really want something, right? Because they're your your first customer, and they're the ones who are living and breathing this this workflow and experience of what's going on, and trying to figure out how to make that product serve them better. So that too is something to be aware of. There could be malicious forces behind it. It could be completely pure, and they want to have the best product possible for them, but also that's going to help you iterate and optimize and get to that product market fit. So yeah. Um, sorry. Colm Holmes. He's got a point, and I think this channel is a fake. Colm,
I'm not AI. I'm a real person.
yeah, it's a real person. We're real. If that's what you're talking about in reference to the channel, if not, please feel free to provide more context and yeah, be happy to expand on whatever point you're trying to make. Sorry, I got a little bit lost in translation between the different stuff. Okay, your quest had a point. I don't know what a quest is. I'm new at this Twitch stuff, so if Twitch is doing something with quests, by all means, I have nothing to do with it. But cool. But yeah, Colm, yeah, if you're hanging out over on Twitch, if you want to ask Marc questions, feel free. Yeah, anything about building a career, building a business, let us have it, and we'll get it there. Marc Holmes, another Holmes, over on Start Model here says it feels like as a founder, I'm constantly struggling to accept that doing just enough is acceptable. I forgot what book I read the term in, perhaps the cold start problem, but I'm constantly flintstoning. It feels like if someone was to peek behind the curtain, they'd say, "That's how you're running your business." Does that feeling ever go away? That's a really good question. Yeah.
No, the question will never go away. We all suffer from imposter syndrome. We all think somebody's doing it bigger, better, faster than we can. So there's a definition that I like to use. The definition is of commitment. So what is a commitment? To me, commitment is total freedom, because once you're committed to a project, there is no other choice. So to me, think about it in terms of commitment. What are you committed to? Are you really committed to building your product? If you are, you have no choice. So who cares who's looking behind the curtain, right? Let them look. If you feel like you're just doing enough and you could be doing more, you're your own best critic. You should be doing more, right?
Yeah, that's yeah, well said. The like building on that and going back to again like the healthy boundaries aspect, there's always more work to be done. Always. And this is why it's important like, Mark has very hard boundaries. Sunday is for golf day, no business. And, time with family is time for family, no business, right? So, you only have 24 hours in a day. It's important to be aware of how you're allocating those hours and just set boundaries of this is how much time I am able to work on this. And if I can't get all the work done today, there's another day, right? And this plays into setting expectations and managing expectations appropriately. And when it comes to project management, working with teams or co-founders or others, when you're setting deadlines, like Mark brought up earlier too, right? You want to make sure that you put buffer time into those deadlines so you have the opportunity to experience these unexpected events and work through them. But part of that too involves trusting the other people on your team who are specialists in their area and make them feel safe to be honest about how much time it will take for them to do something. Don't be the type of manager, boss, owner that is forcing them to be in crunch time all the time and set unrealistic expectations for their own work just to make you feel satisfied that they're working hard or they're doing their best. So it's always a balance with these things. And the other aspect too about this, peeking behind the curtain and being afraid of that. I've shared this example before. The last startup I worked on demand delivery service, when we started, we faked it by putting together essentially a Google form in what was called PhoneGap, so we could put a native app onto iOS, and it looked like an actual application, but it was just a form, and the form collected the information we needed to act on. We told the clients that, oh, we've got a great algorithm, we got amazing technology to make your deliveries more accountable and get there to your customers faster. But in reality, there was no algorithm. It was humans, human brains, operating the system and acting on the data that they gave us, that they put into this iPad app that sent us an email. And then we got the email and we go, oh, okay, we're going to figure this out. And we did that to prove that the systems work and we were on the right track. And then eventually, working through it manually, we then built an actual software that automated that and had an algorithm, right? So when it comes to your customers, the main thing that matters is, are you delivering on what you're promising them in terms of the benefits that they're going to get from this, essentially, right? And if you're doing that, then it's great. You're fine. You don't need to worry about how you're doing that. And if you're really kind of kind of afraid of that, like Mark said, let them look behind the curtain. And the other way to phrase that is just be transparent. Like over here on Start Mata, I don't know if it's on, let me double check the stream. Yeah, so wait, up there on the stream, it says Start Mata Beta. It's got a beta little stamp on that. And that's just to set everyone's expectations that this is a work in progress, right?
Yep.
Exactly. So don't be afraid about being honest. And again, setting and managing expectations appropriately.
Yeah, well, I would add to that for those of you that are developers or work with developers, a developer will never finish a product. I mean, they will always have more to do. So as the business guy, you have to make the decision, when is the product good enough to take to market, to start a beta, to start to show to customers so you can get that feedback. And again, don't fall in love with your product. Take the feedback. If it makes sense, implement it. But if you don't rely on your developer to say this is when the product's done, it will never be done.
That's another really good point. Let me check the chat. Mark says, "Thanks, Mark. It's been great getting to talk to you with you today. I have to head out, but this was great. Thanks as always, Gary." Yeah, heck yeah, Mark. I'm glad you joined us. Yeah, hopefully, the Marks will be able to meet at the next VIP lunch. Okay,
I'll be at
so
the next one.
heck yeah, awesome. Okay, Boyne says, "Is there a difference between being in love with your product versus being passionate about it?"
Yeah, I would say yes. I would think being passionate about what you're trying to do with that product is critically important. Being in love with the product is a different story. That's you love the GUI, you love this particular feature that nobody gives a crap about. But being passionate to solve the problem you're attempting to solve, yeah, that's a must-have.
Absolutely. And this too, like, when someone's a entrepreneur, right? They want to be an entrepreneur. They can be very desperate about coming up with an idea or finding an idea to start a business around. And I touched on this earlier. They can fall into the trap of looking at trends and be like, "Oh, AI is doing crazy. I'm going to make an AI company," or, whatever it is. When they have no experience in anything AI, or like the other thing too, it's kind of like a trap too, is that like SaaS AI, it can apply to any industry, any market. So that too, if they don't have any experience in the specific market industry that they want to apply AI to or whatever, it makes them woefully underqualified to be building something. And they're likely to not be very passionate about it either, because they're just chasing money or what they think is going to deliver money to them. And, Mark, I'm curious, and I say it all the time, but I'm curious about your take. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be an entrepreneur in regards to organically finding an opportunity, an idea that they're going to be able to pursue with passion, but also some form of expertise and leverage to wield?
Well, I would say if you don't have a concrete idea, you know the space that you want to get into, you want to be early, you know that you want to help build from the ground up. Uh, my advice at that point would be find a very early stage startup that's trying to build a founding team that's in the area that you're interested in, and go talk to them and see if you guys can combine your talents together. I think if you're not clear on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to build and launch, you're going to fail. Because unless you have a very clear purpose and everything you do supports that purpose, you're screwed. So go find somebody that's identified their purpose that resonates with you and go work with them.
This is very good advice. It's something that it kind of touched on some another thing I say all the time. Don't be in a rush, right? Like, don't be in a rush and skip critical steps that are going to allow you to be a better founder, a better leader, right? So, yeah, go find someone else that you can join the team of and learn with and be a contributor to. Yeah. Um, so we got another, like, yeah, new people cycling in over in LinkedIn. Welcome. Please use the text chat if you have any questions. If you want to share what you're working on, I can relay that to Mark as well. Get you some answers, advice, feedback, insights, whatever it is to help you with your career or business. Um, Another thing that comes up often, and Mark, you're an advisor, you're also on a board. A lot of early stage founders are learning the importance of having advisors and board members on their team. I'm curious, what are some mistakes that founders make when they're reaching out to a potential person, but also when it comes to bringing them on board? Like, yeah, what are some traps that they can fall into by being a little bit overeager to just get someone on there?
Well, somebody better be very clear on why they're approaching me to help them and spend my time helping them achieve what they want to achieve. Uh, I keep using this word purpose, right? It's like, what is their frickin' purpose? What is their purpose of reaching out to me? What is the purpose of the market they're trying to solve? Um, Mistakes bringing on, um, not being clear on what the time requirement's going to be. Don't ask me to join a board or an advisory board or a board of directors if you want me to spend 20 hours a week with you. Not going to happen. You want to meet, once every 2 months for a couple of hours. Sure, but what do you want me to help you with? Uh, don't make me guess what your problems are. Over time, I'll figure them out. But let me know right off the bat why you reached out to me. I mean, there's a million people out there, a lot of them much smarter than me. It's like, why are you coming to me to be on your advisory board?
I like how there again these recurring themes of purpose and how there's such things that are very important to contextualize with setting very intentional goals with everything.
Yeah, and expectations, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When you raise $250 million, if I'm your board early on, how am I going to get compensated? You know, I do
Yep.
it out of love, but I still like money.
I mean, yeah. Again, like the role of advisor board member, it requires time, and everyone's time is precious. Again, only 24 hours in a day, and you want to show respect to that to everyone that you're working with that's putting time into your venture, putting time into you. So yeah, very important. Um, what are I mean, like in terms of like the compensation aspect of this, what sort of compensation is kind of standard expected for an advisor versus a board member? And that could be like, a board director or, excuse me, an advisor, board
Advisory
advisor.
board,
Yeah, yeah,
board director.
yeah.
I think it's based on the time. I mean, I'll sit on an advisory board without requiring any kind of compensation. If I like the product, if I think it's gonna help humanity in some way, and it's like an hour a month. I'm not going to charge somebody just to sit in a room and give my opinion on something. If it's going to be a recurring role and I'm going to have actual responsibility and there's going to be expectations of a quote unquote deliverable, that I'm probably going to want to charge for. How I get compensated if I believe in the company. First of all, let's assume that I wouldn't do it if I don't believe in the company. So I'll take options. I'll take some early stage options. I'll take hard cold cash, um, knowing that early stage companies don't have a lot of money. I'll be very reasonable, and to me, it's more of goodwill and showing me that they're serious than like trying to retire off their little startup company. Uh, so just make an effort. Offer me something. Take me out to lunch. Take me to Mastro's once a month. I don't care. Just give me something.
I love that too because it's 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 not about how much in some cases, but it's about the effort, right? And being honest about here's my limitations, here's what I'm working with. I'm able to do this much, and like it's good on your part to recognize that everyone's operating in like a different kind of realm of resources, and just knowing that someone's taking a risk by giving you something of them that's precious, even if it's not a lot to someone else, it's a lot to them. That's something you can respect, and that's something you can like be appreciative of, and it goes a long way. And this too like kind of touches on something that with the strategic partnerships and compensation, bartering services, bartering product if you have product, right? Like there's different assets that you have that could be valuable to someone else that you're able to provide them with. And maybe like you're a founder and you're specialized in, let's say, like producing content, right? Well, you can donate your time to help with like a project, something like that. It could be any number of different things, but this is where like it's really beneficial to have these conversations and identify some of these things, right? Yeah, we're coming up on time. So last call for questions. Everyone way shy today, other than good old Mark and Boyan. Thank you so much. But yeah, I know I see you on LinkedIn, people. So please, if you got anything that you want to ask, now's the time. Yeah, Mark, while we wait for a couple people to hopefully ask some final questions, do you have any thoughts, anything that you want to call attention to for any stage business? It could be like early stage, it could be later stage. That's like trying to figure out how to find an acquisition partner or something like that that you think is really important that people overlook.
Yeah, well, I think none of this really is rocket science. I think the most important thing is going back to your original opening. Strategic partnerships. How do you put them together? What does a good one look like? Just a quick story to finish up on. The first time I raised money, identified a company that needed the widget that I was producing. And I went out and I sold them a prepay year's worth of product, and I gave them a little bit of equity to juice the deal. Uh, Worked for them, worked for us. We had an ongoing relationship for 9 years where they were constantly being a customer. Uh, so to me, that was a really good way to put together a mutually beneficial relationship. Um, don't do it if it's not win-win. You got to figure out what's in it for both of you. Don't give stuff away to give it away. Um, Find real value. Make sure that whatever deals you're doing are win-win deals. If you both win, that's great. If you both lose a little, that's also good. It should never be one-sided.
That is very insightful as well. I'm curious, a little bit more on that. So that qualifies like a strategic investor working with a company like that. Like, how would you frame that if someone was to like go and research more about how they can consider those types of options?
Yeah, to me, it was strategic. I knew it was a company that did invest in other companies. I knew that he was a distribution company. I knew that he could use my product. It was a very very easy deal to put together because I knew it made sense. It made a lot of sense for me. I was willing to give up some equity to get a great customer and to get some working capital, and it was a great deal for him because it was no risk because he would have bought the product anyway. Wouldn't have been when I needed it, would have been down the road. I needed the money now. So to structure it as a prepay was a perfect way to put that deal together.
I love it. It's I find that genius. It solves a bunch of problems that founders are having and overlooking again in regards to like running a viable business, monetizing on day zero, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah, doing the prepay or pre-sale kind of approach, you're validating that someone wants your product, right? You're getting money for it, but you're also getting capital to act on, and it's just solving all these problems in one go. It's amazing. I'm curious, in regards to like the equity terms with that, was there any stipulations in regards to working with other competitors, or
No,
was it
no, because once they're part of your company, they want the company to succeed. So whatever business deals make sense, make sense.
brilliant? I love it. All right. I want to thank you, Mark. If you have anything you want to share that's coming up, if you got events coming that you want to share, feel free.
No, I mean your third Friday is one of my favorite events over at Stonefire Grill. I'm traveling a little in November. I'm doing an English teachers educational convention in Denver in November. Just doing Thanksgiving and rolling into Christmas time. So having my kids come over for dinner tonight. Gonna after this making spaghetti and meatballs for everybody.
Amazing. Sounds like a fun time. Healthy boundaries. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, Gary. Thanks for the time. I appreciate appreciate being able to talk to you and your folk.
Appreciate you too. You're wonderful. Thanks for being a mentor and helping everyone out. Thank you, Boyne. Thank you, Mark, Mark Holmes, for asking wonderful questions. Thanks for tuning in, Colm, and everyone on LinkedIn. We got more office hours coming next week. Check out the calendars, and I'll catch you all later. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Take care.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.